alive. Oh, he's alive.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
I love you.
I know.
Here's Johnny.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
I see dead people.
Milk was a bad choice.
Hello and welcome to How to Be a Movie Snob, Episode 2. I am here with the lovely Mariah.
Hello.
And my name is Seth, and we are here to talk about movies. This week's a doozy. We go from arguably the greatest movie of all time to one of the greatest directors of all time, Mr. Stan the Man Kubrick. I'm pretty sure that's what all his friends called him, Stan the Man Kubrick.
And I bet he liked it.
I could see him. He doesn't seem like a guy that'd be super annoyed by anything. That's not exactly the way he wants it at all. So Stanley, as I like to call him when we're chatting, he made a bunch of movies, and a lot of these movies are like just cultural pieces that you don't even realize are cultural pieces. Like just get quoted here and there all the time. Their cultural impact goes beyond sometimes movies. They change the way culture is thought. From the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, that literally influenced every freaking movie ever set in space. There's just so many homages to it. It's insane. Like that movie alone, you could just go into the thousands of movies that just, I wouldn't say ripped off, but ripped off and paid homage to Dr. Strangelove's amazing masterpiece of a comedy with Peter Sellers. Insane. Here's Johnny, the old Shining, also filmed in Oregon. Thank you very much. But Stanley Kubrick is not only a generational talent, but a talent that has changed the way we look at movies, the way we've experienced movies. So Mariah and I thought, hey, we should watch a Stanley Kubrick movie. We should watch a Stanley Kubrick movie that we haven't seen.
That's at least 3 hours long.
These were the things we're like, you know what? Okay, let's find a director. Let's make sure it's long and make sure we haven't seen it.
Check.
So we went through it, and I was like, well, I've seen Full Metal Jacket. And I was like, yeah. And Mariah, what movies have you seen? You seen
The Shining.
The Shining. I haven't seen The Shining yet, which is embarrassing. And
I'm embarrassed for you.
I've seen so many clips of it, but never, unfortunately, the whole thing. That will be amended soon, because to be a movie snob, you have to watch The Shining.
Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, seen it so many times. What else? We got
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange. I have seen that. That screwed me up for a little bit. Like that's
a doozy.
Oh my gosh. It's just a mine F. I don't know what our rating is, so I haven't cussed on this podcast, but I would for that movie. Oh, there's another. And we would have watched Eyes Wide Shut, of course, but it's not over 3 hours long.
Also a movie I realized that he directed, but didn't know till I looked at the filmography. Spartacus.
No.
Indeed.
What year was that?
60. His first directorial debut was 1951.
Holy
and his last one was
crap.
1999.
And he only made like 3 movies. Okay, so this movie...
This guy was busy.
This guy was not a fast turner-outer of products. He made one every like 5 years. Mm-hmm. But every single one is an epic. Sorry, Eyes Wide Shut. Okay, not every single one. But most of them are...
Oh, but the last one.
So in this list of epics, there was one that we had both not seen. And if you're a Stanley Kubrick fan, you probably have jumped the gun and know exactly which movie we're talking about. Drum roll, please. And Mariah, the winner is?
Barry Lyndon.
The one, the only, the boring, the long, the period piece? Barry Lyndon. So, before we get started, we made a little phone call to a close friend of ours. And by close friend, I mean relative, because that's how this podcast has worked so far. We're all related. So we give, Mariah and I are trying to attain movie snobdom, but we would dare say that Mariah's brother perhaps has already attained.
Might already be there.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair, right?
He's above amateur,
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. He's definitely
intermediate.
Yeah, like high intermediate cinephile. Like he could talk about anything. So we're just gonna give him a call, cold call him. We have not told him that we're gonna call him, and just see what happens and see what he has to say. So here we go. Off to Pat.
Hello.
Hello, is this Pat Gillette?
It is.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. It's me and Mariah are here right now.
Hello, Pat.
Oh, hi. Oh, hi, guys. I know you.
Yeah. Hey, we're about to start a podcast, and so you're going to be our intro. What would you say?
Are you live now?
Yeah. Totally. Hope that's
Okay, good.
Hope that's cool.
Live to our 0 listeners.
Yeah.
Hey, when they'll come, who knows? There'll be dozens of listeners, and I want to try out this new Bluetooth phone function, which seemed really cool.
Okay.
So here we go. Your top Stanley Kubrick movies. Go.
Shining. 2001.
Okay.
And then it gets a little iffy. I probably need to rewatch Full Metal Jacket. The first part of it, I think I enjoy. The second part, not so much.
Yeah, it does kind of tail off there in the end.
Same with like A Clockwork Orange. I don't, it's not one of those where I'm like, yeah, I want to rewatch that. But the one I should rewatch is Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah.
Yes, good choice.
But I'm guessing if I rewatched everything, I probably still like The Shining in 2001 the most.
So you want to know this?
I guess, and then I think I've never seen like at all his period piece one.
That's the one that the podcast is on today.
Guess which we're talking about? Barry Lyndon.
Barry
Yes.
Lyndon.
So
Thank
Pat,
you.
why haven't you seen Barry? You seem to be a Stanley Kubrick fan, but yet Barry didn't quite make your list.
You missed out on the 3-hour delight.
Yeah, I think one, I didn't really know it was a Kubrick movie.
This is actually a good point. We'll lay into a little bit later, of course.
Ditto.
And it just never hit the zeitgeist in the way the other ones did. So I never thought.
It's a very good
even check it
podcast
out.
word, by the way, zeitgeist. I feel like that really goes into our target.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. That one, it just never became one that crossed my plate in like college, and that's probably when I would have done my deep dive on Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, for sure. And so, who's your favorite directors? Let's just start there. See, is Stanley on your list?
Oh boy, I don't know that he would be.
Oh,
actually.
okay. This is a hot take from Pat Gillette, my most cinephile family member. I'll have to say.
Yeah.
This is pretty prepared for a cold call.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know. And I think probably because, like I said, that it's basically the two that I'm like, yeah, those are good.
Right.
And so, it's on me that he probably isn't one of my favorite directors.
Okay, sure. So who's top three? What do you got for me?
Gosh, top three.
It doesn't have to be like legitimate, like just the ones that you think of first and be like, oh yeah, these guys kill it.
Well, talking to you guys, Wes Anderson comes to mind.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that nod out. Which, by the way, his films are not as critically acclaimed as I thought they would be. I thought they'd all
No,
be like
not-
bangers, but they aren't. They're like kind of
No, they're kind of hit and miss.
yeah.
But I love them.
Oh yeah, me too.
Denis Villeneuve is actually probably my current favorite director.
And what's some of the stuff he's done for those who are not connected to the old?
Well, Arrival. This coincides with my favorite movie.
Wow,
right now,
really?
Arrival. Yeah, and when I
2000
finished watching that,
2018 Arrival. Or
yes,
2000,
not
yeah.
The Arrival, starring Charlie Sheen, which I did enjoy. But
So good.
Arrival.
Yeah.
And when I finished that one, I was like, "Oh, this is why movies are made."
Oh,
Literally
that's so
what
cool.
came out of my mouth. But he did Prisoners with Hugh Jackman. He did
Oh yeah.
Dune.
Of course. Oh,
Um,
I literally read like
is
3
wonderful.
Dune books immediately after watching that movie. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know what this is, but this is the best thing I've ever seen. Although I did have, unfortunately, the next step was watching the Jean-Luc Picard Dune, which is a totally different experience.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, and then he did Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, by the way, which is again.
which is a good segue into Ridley Scott. Which
There we go.
my
There we
list.
go. That's a good one. I was going to say. Okay, here we are going. We're going off the deep end here. We'll go back to Barry Lyndon in a second. But
This is just a podcast about what I like.
oh yeah, no, it literally is. This is just called
We're,
the Patch
we're
Project.
changing it right now.
Yeah, yeah. Was 2049 not better than the original? Now it's hard to say that because you wouldn't have the 2049 without the original. But was it just? Would you? Is that a valid argument?
Was it not better?
Was it better? Yes, touche. Oh, there you go. Listening to the words I say.
You're wondering if it was better than the original.
I am stating that it's better. I am making a statement.
I mean, that always is tricky with
Yep.
sequels.
Right, because it's like it's not the same.
foundationally,
Right, exactly
it
right.
can't exist without the source. I would say it's, and I mean, I love Denis Villeneuve, so I would say it's a more, oh gosh, what would I say?
Oh, got him stumped. Got him stumped.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's a
he's
really tricky
listening,
one.
so just
Yeah.
shoot from the hip.
Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, yeah. I'm really worried about what Ridley's gonna say. Well, I mean, one, it's more modern, so all the VFX, which I do enjoy, are much better.
For those who don't know, Pat does work with a little bit of animation every once in a while. He does a little animation on the
moves
side,
stuff.
moves stuff around.
Yeah. So that, if you think about like rewatching, like that does help.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would say the villain in quotes is more memorable for them the first.
That is a good point. That is a very
And
good,
it's-
solid, good guy versus bad guy sort of thing.
And it's hard to top Rutger Hauer's improv. We are but tears in the rain. Of course, I'm forgetting the first half of that, but
I believe you're
that's-
improving at this point.
that's a pretty bomb line.
No, it's
so,
amazing.
Yeah, gosh, again, I'd have to rewatch that one too.
Yeah. Okay, so those are good ones. So you got those. Do we have 2 directors or 3? You've said. Oh yeah, you said 3 so
said-
far. Are those? Would those
said
be your
Wes.
3? Wes, Ridley,
And Denny.
and Denny.
Sure. I mean,
You're not gonna-
Spielberg.
Spielberg,
like many of us
yeah.
defined
Sure.
my childhood.
Exactly right. That's a pretty good list,
but
sir.
he's-
That's a
he's
pretty good
fallen
list.
off a little,
So
so
here's
I
the
don't know.
thing. It's 2022. Are you going to watch Barry Lyndon coming up soon? Is that going to be on your
Well,
2 watch list?
It would have been a lot more likely if I watched it with you guys, but
It was fun.
I might have to.
We'll make a fun little precursor here. So we're sitting down to watch the movie. First scene.
Yeah, it's 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sat through all 3 hours, baby. Comments and everything.
And who would I even know is in that movie? Because the lead is someone I can't recall.
Well, I mean, it's not that I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia right now so I can give you some of the names of the cast.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. There's like, you know, the famous Ryan O'Neal and Marissa.
Oh, yes, Ryan O'Neal.
And
It's only Ryan O'Neal that you would know. Nobody
And
else.
I only know him. Don't I only really know him for like drama in his life?
Mostly. And his
some
daughter,
such thing.
Tatum O'Neal.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Mostly from that. Also, Love Story.
No, yeah, there you go. Yeah, but you're not wrong. There's no like,
Okay.
yeah, there's
You watch it because it's a Kubrick movie,
Right.
not 'cause-
not because, you know.
Are you guys, you know, not to give away the podcast, are you both happy that you watched Barry Lyndon? Did that feel like a good use
You
of
know,
3 hours of
It
your life?
left me more confused than in touch with Kubrick and his style and all that.
Yeah.
It's a question mark of a line of his movies, I think.
Okay, so we'll go into this a little bit more because the big question is, which we'll get to, is why did Stanley Kubrick make this movie? That's the biggest question of all. No, for real. It's like it's not groundbreaking cinematography like 2001 or The Shining
Yep.
or frankly all of his movies, because like he's usually doing, although I will get to a little bit. He did do some crazy innovations to be able to shoot it the way he wanted to shoot it. So he still did some things that are unheard of in the cinema world at the time, because being Stanley Kubrick, if he's not breaking a camera, it's not really a movie. But even with those innovations, it's still guys sitting around a table in candlelight playing cards, or people marching on a battlefield. It's not like, you know, you're following the tricycle down the hall, or
And
a guy's
he
watching.
made this right after A Clockwork Orange.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So it's a hard turn.
It's a sharp veer off a cliff turn.
Although I would argue,
Maybe it's a palate cleanser, you know?
Maybe. It's true.
so I don't want to give away the why. Well, the why. So the real reason why is not because he wanted to make a love story set in this era, but he wanted to make a biography about one of the most important people in his life, historically, Napoleon Bonaparte. He wanted to do a biopic about Napoleon. He thought it was going to be the end-all story, that he could make this amazing, huge piece. But there was, I forget what movie was before, they just did a Napoleon movie, and it bombed in the box office. So nobody would fund
lost
it.
Nobody wanted to
funding.
finance it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one is
Okay, this
also
does
based
seem
off
familiar.
the 7 Years' War and takes place around
So,
then.
and which is too bad. Just imagine if Kubrick got a hold of the Napoleon story. It'd be actually watchable.
Yes.
So I think this is his literally his backup plan for not being able to do Napoleon. So that's kind of the
He's
crazy.
like, I already prepped for some of this movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
He was ready in a lot of ways.
Let's just bring this Barry guy in and call it good.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Is Barry Lyndon even the lead? Is that Ryan O'Neal?
Yeah.
Or is that...
Yes,
Is that...
that is
okay.
the lead. So
Because I could see it being like, no, Barry Lyndon is a person you see at the end of the movie looking at a gravestone or something, you know? It seems like a
Well,
Kubrick-y thing.
the
to do.
movie does start out with him having a different name. So
Okay.
now I will have to say about the other said the movie was Waterloo. Yes, which I gotta say, at least we have ABBA's Waterloo the song, so it wasn't all for naught. You know what I mean?
tangent.
I mean, I don't actually know. I said, I don't really know. I don't know what that song is.
What are you doing right now, Pat?
This isn't a music podcast. I'm in a gymnasium. Do you hear a lot of background
It sounded
shouting
like some
and-
action happening.
We
back
assume
there.
so. We assume that was
Yeah.
the action.
Yeah, I'm parenting of sorts.
Oh, nice! You're not just hanging
Not
out
actively.
watching boys gymnastics on your own.
Yeah, I better go back to the gym my kids are. Getting a lot of weird looks.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Patrick. We may call you again for some other podcasts just randomly like this.
Hey,
so
anytime.
just be prepared.
We're gonna prep you with
Well,
a movie
for
before
all of
you.
cinema.
Yeah, all of cinema. Well, frankly,
Okay.
you do watch enough. We probably don't need to prep you.
I mean,
We'll
I
give you
like
one-
sounding smarter than I am, so if you give me
Yeah.
a slight heads up.
We'll give you one to watch before you come visit next, and then you can be part of the recording here in the
Perfect.
Oh
studio.
yeah, Studio
Perfect.
64. All right.
All right. Well, I look forward to learning more about your take on Barry Lyndon.
All right, but
And,
all right,
and maybe
Pat.
I'll try and watch it before I listen.
Okay.
Well, Pat, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for your time and have fun at practice being a dad.
Hey, have a great podcast, guys.
Hey, thanks, Pat.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right, that phone call was shorter than I remember.
Boy, was he prepared, though.
I know. He's saying, make sure I'm more prepared next time. Yeah, I don't think we're going to need him to be prepared for anything.
He knew enough to embarrass me.
He knew enough to embarrass himself. Let's be real here. Like, it was, but unfortunately, I agree with a lot of his points and I do like, anyone who's a Wes Anderson fan, but still is like, Pat has been a dork way before it was cool to be a dork.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to brag a little bit on him. And Mariah, you don't have to because he's your brother, so you don't have to. But he went to some tiny polytechnical institute, and we thought, what a waste of your life. You're going to just follow your dreams and like become an animator. And that son of a gun did it.
He did it.
But that's not why we called him. We called him because
The guy's seen some movies.
he's seen some movies. On his birthday every year, which is 420, by the way, which is a hilarious sub fact, he will go to movies as soon as the movie theater opens until the movie theater closes.
He always has a lineup. He's scheduled them out, knows what he's going to do
Jeez.
the whole day.
Whole day. So anyways, I don't think I attained to be as committed as Pat, but I do appreciate his knowledge because he likes what he likes. He doesn't always like the snobby movies. He likes the good movies that are fun and that are just unapologetically bad. But he does have a couple things to say, so he may make an appearance a few more times in the old podcast for sure.
Let's hope so.
So let's dive into Barry. Okay, Barry Lyndon. So I have a lot of things to talk about. So the first thing we talked a little bit with Pat. Why the heck did Stanley Kubrick make this piece? And it really was like he put so much work into this Napoleon Bonaparte piece. And I think it was just like a labor of love. It wasn't something that's going to be this crazy changing the game, but he really wanted to do the time period justice. And so thanks, Waterloo. Now we got stuck with Barry Lyndon. I hope you're proud of yourselves. Freaking Waterloo.
It'd be a big failure.
Oh my gosh. So that's the reason why he lost funding for that, because it was so soon after that. But the why we generally went back and forth about this while we were talking about this movie, we're like, he's so game changing. He's a force that just like blows your mind out of the water. It changes the way you think about things. Like the gravity and the physics that went into 2001 were emulated because he does his homework. He makes it like you can't just be like, Flash Gordon anymore. You have to think through things. And so sci-fi could never be the same because it will always be compared to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Military movies. That's the last one you watched. The most recent one, Full Metal Jacket?
No.
You just watched Clockwork Orange. Yeah. So talk about so you just rewatched that. Talk about kind of your feelings after that.
I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen A Clockwork Orange. And so it felt a lot like the first time. And I could not remember. The beginning re-shocked me. And I know from doing the research that this movie was banned for a while. This was very shocking to people. It was pretty violent, pretty graphic.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
These boys were naughty, to say the least. And it's just amazing to me how it played out. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, how is this similar to Barry Lyndon? How did this guy make this movie right before a period piece?
Oh, for sure. So let's go through that. This is a fun game. Let's go through movie by movie and just talk about how crazy they are, okay? So let's start. So 1962, but you said, okay, should we start with Spartacus? So, okay. The next one was, because then it goes from Spartacus to, is Lolita next? Or what's after that? So
Yes.
Okay. So Lolita, which they tried to make again, but never was as good. First attempt at a black comedy. So it was, again, a little Russian novel here. He doesn't go lightly. He goes all in. And then you go from that. So I guess at least Lolita and Dr. Strangelove are both comedy, but Dr. Strangelove is like absurd. It's like, if you would have told me that was Stanley Kubrick after I'd watched Clockwork Orange, I would never have believed you. I'm like, how is that in the same world? Okay, so then we go from Dr. Strangelove to
2001, I believe. Okay. Then A Clockwork Orange.
Good night. So you go from Dr. Strangelove, 2001, and A Clockwork Orange. Those three movies can be the pinnacle of each of their genres, arguably.
And set next to each other, you would not recognize them as siblings.
No. Or distant
How are they
cousins.
related at all?
And then comes the movie we watched, which is even more hilarious because then you get this period piece. Literally 2 movies ago, he was in the space, and now he's in the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so that's the shock of Stanley Kubrick is real. Like, there's no...
And that might be the theme.
Maybe it is.
That every single time he surprises you and makes you go, well, that's different than what he'd already done.
So, does any other director do it like him? That would be the question for the future. Because right now, we don't have that many experience. Because even Orson Welles, who did several movies later, it still felt like Orson Welles. Stanley Kubrick doesn't feel like anything except for groundbreaking cinema.
Yeah. I think each movie he did so much research and he just immersed himself in that movie, in that screenplay, in that script. And it didn't relate to anything he'd already done because he was in this one.
I love how people have broken this up already. Like, the 3 movies we just mentioned were the groundbreaking cinema. The 3, 2001, Clockwork Orange, and Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I already spaced it out. And then it goes into, this is called his period and horror filming. So, I mean, the crazy thing is, like, the innovations he was doing was still in every single movie. Like, as a wedding videographer, like, we use gimbals and we use Steadicams. Guess who had the first Steadicam? Freaking Stanley Kubrick in The Shining. Following the freaking twins. The tricycle going down the hallway, like that shot is still just to this day so yeah, nothing feels like it. Barry Lyndon had incredible tech, but he found these lenses. They're Zeiss planar lenses, and there's kind of like a mystique around them in the videography world. Developed by NASA, originally connections developed partly by the Nazis. Why is it always the Nazis? In Germany, bringing to NASA needing a lens they could use in space when there's like basically no light. So I'm just gonna give you a little bit of my brain of how I work. One of my most expensive lenses is a $2,000 50 millimeter 1.2. The smaller the number, the bigger the hole, the bigger the glass, right? Like you can buy a 50 millimeter lens 1.8 for like $250. And you're like 1.8 plus 1.2, what's the big deal? Not that big of a deal, but it's just more light, so I can shoot in almost darkness and for wedding situations. But these lenses are a 0.7, which means they're same thing. It's a 50 millimeter, same like focal length. And just for those who don't know, 50 millimeter is kind of the same. We call it what your eye sees. It's the same distance as you would look with your eye. So if you took a 50 millimeter, it looked like you're the same distance away as with not having the lens in front of you. So that's why 50 millimeters is a very popular lens. So he bought these lenses from NASA at 0.7. Now these lenses are made for, photography in space, not for not for filming a French Revolution piece. Yeah. So he had to take apart his cameras, and he was using these cameras that usually they have like a mirror that reflects the image onto the film. But these ones didn't have a mirror, it was directly to the film. So they could actually get the lens closer to the film than you could with another camera. But he had to like take off the casing and like rig something up so that the lens would actually move close enough to get in focus, because it wouldn't be in focus enough to do these shots. Because Stanley Kubrick wanted to shoot these candlelight scenes where they're literally sitting around playing cards with natural candlelight, and there was no technology to make that happen. So what's he do? He buys a freaking NASA lens and he breaks his camera and he figures out a way to rig it up so that you can film that. And it is gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. It makes me wish that people, I can't even tell you how many shows I've seen lately where I'm watching and I go, I can't see what's happening.
Yes.
It's so dark in there.
It's so dark.
And I know that it's intentional in a lot of ways, but I'm also just like, I can't see. I feel like there's something wrong with the TV.
I totally agree. They did that with the new Game of Thrones series.
Yes.
It's so bad.
House
People
of
have
the
complained
Dragon.
so
It's
much.
so hard.
So, and
I checked at least 2 times watching that season.
No, it's very true. And don't get me wrong. Like, I understand, like, they want to get that darker feel, and they have cameras that can get just the shadows, but it's ridiculous in House of Dragon. And I got a lot of other complaints about House of Dragon, but I will not air those now. But I had to change. So usually, like, your TV, I have a couple different TVs, and the TV I watch is an OLED, and I have they have the filmmaker mode, which is the darker mode, because usually I can't stand those vibrant HDR. I can't stand the way that looks. I think it looks awful. I hate the way it pops. But I found myself, I had to turn that freaking thing up to vibrant or whatever the heck it was, because it looked I literally couldn't see what was going on. And even so I was watching House of Dragons, and then I was watching the new Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings had some scenes also that were almost impossible to see on my pretty decent TV.
Right.
And so and you had to watch it in this crazy mode. And maybe it's because people watch it in such vibrant colors now that they're trying to like combat that. Maybe, I have no idea, but it's frustrating as heck to watch these shows that should look gorgeous.
Yeah. That
just choose to stay so dark. And I think I just think they're trying to combat the ultra contrast, ultra bright phone world we live in these days, because I figure probably most people watch on their phone and just turn it up, crank their freaking.
Yeah. Well, let me just say I appreciate his candlelight.
Yeah, for real, look gorgeous. And it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
I can see why he got the Oscar.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, so the awards. Here's the award breakdown. He won how many Oscars?
4.
Okay. What did he win it in?
One of them was based on the score.
Yep. Which makes sense.
Right. One was costume design.
Oh, again, perfect.
Yes. One was...
It was like the score...
Cinematography.
Of course. And the cinematography, I would argue, is where this shines above everything else. As as I become a film snob, the one thing I would say I would have gained from this is the way he shoots each scene. And there are the love scenes back and forth, and even just like it just felt there was a softness about it. It wasn't anything like hard cutting. It just was beautiful all the way around.
Yeah. Cinematography and art direction.
Art direction. I wonder what that means. We should go into that sometimes, but what art direction actually means. So we got the why. He wanted to be Napoleon.
He was already locked and loaded for this period, for this.
Oh.
He didn't get Napoleon, but he's got the next best thing.
It's almost like heartbreaking. He's like, he didn't quite get to do what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of his like, well, I'm here. I might as well make this gorgeous 4 Oscar-winning piece since I couldn't get the one I wanted. So I guess that's okay.
He got Ryan O'Neal.
The Ryan O'Neal?
Yes, with his Irish accent.
So, this is the least Kubrick movie, or is it still a very Kubrick movie? That's another thing, too. How Stanley Kubrick is this movie?
I think compared to the list of the others in the filmography, it's the least. But when you know it's his, you see that he did all the research. He, made it the most amazing of that he could do. Yeah. And what he did with it was really impressive.
Yes. But
why he did it.
And that's the thing. The why.
I get that he wanted to do Napoleon, but still.
Come on. What's going on here? And that's the thing, too. Like, the why. It's...
I wish we could ask him.
Right. I'm sure people... we should... Yeah. I didn't find any interviews about the why that he actually answered. He's probably... Because he was moving on to freaking The Shining. And they're like, we'll ask you about a movie we actually want to care about. Yeah. So that's the mystery. How's this play in 2022? How did it feel? Like, did it feel like... I don't know. Like... we know a lot of people who love period pieces for I
love period pieces.
Pride and Prejudice, of course, is like the most watched and overwatched and rewatched movie of all
Jane
time.
Austen, Dickens, any movie based on amazing classic books, I will watch and usually enjoy.
But this is based on a classic book and it's a period piece. Would you watch this again?
I will say that the story had some merit. I will also say that despite being filmed in the 70s, and I was aware of it in the beginning, there were some costume, there were some fabrics I was noticing, or hair, or, in the beginning that made me aware of the time period that the movie was filmed. But I did get into it, and I did believe, I fell for the time. I stopped judging I stopped noticing that it was from the 70s. I started just paying attention to the story and appreciating, the scenery and I mean, he did get me. It took a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's legit because 70s movies feel like 70s movies.
Yes. This is when polyester came into the onto the scene and then, everybody used it.
Oh yeah, and there's polyester in old time Western movies, polyester in old French courts, as we just saw, or polyester in, although there are some 70 movies that don't do that. Monty Python and the Holy Grail does not feel.
No. Even if it was polyester, they soaked it in mud. We wouldn't have known.
Oh, it's so good. That's a true mark of a movie is when you don't know what era it's actually from. That's got to be that's got to be the next level. Okay, so we talked about this movie was gorgeous. Oh, you told me about this. You said the cinematography was not based on another movie, but it was actually based on paintings.
Yeah. There was an artist named, hold on here,
Hold up.
William Hogarth.
The Will.I.am Hogarth.
Yes, lived in this period. He was a painter, engraver. He was a satirist. Satirist? How do you say that?
I don't, but we'll go on with that, yeah. Satirist?
He focused on satire.
Satire.
So he was a social critic, an editorial cartoonist, and
Freaking Garfield on our hands. I see how it is.
yeah, comic
Okay.
strip-like series of pictures. But you know, he was 1700s painter. But you can
Oh, he totally did. They're
look
the most,
through his stuff.
They're the most elaborate comic strips I've ever seen.
Yes. I mean, we're talking about 1700s here, but you look at the pictures and you do see
Yeah.
a lot from the movie. The feel, the vibe,
Yes.
the lighting, even.
Oh, for sure.
Especially the interiors, even the exteriors, the war, you know, the battles. I think he really must have researched this guy a lot to come up with.
That's, I think that's so cool. I like this whole cross art influences, like that paintings influence movies, or that like music influences the stage work, or I love that cross creative pollination, if you will. Like it's just so cool because your influences are more than just the movies you watch when you're a movie maker, or the music you listen to if you're a musician.
It says a lot about him getting the Oscar for costume design and the cinematography and the art, because he was using examples from that time.
Oh, that's so brilliant.
Someone
of
who
course.
is capturing it, he's like, well, let's do that.
Which, by the way, I just found this William Hogarth Marriage a la Mode, and it says, and it's a rather low cut shirt. I was wondering the what's the validity of the actual women's clothes? Were they actually that low cut? And
They seem to be.
they
pretty
really seem
chesty
to
at the
be
time.
very chesty at the time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's just so funny how that all works. Like, well, I guess that's because I've seen that in other movies, but I'm like, that can't be the real. But now I'm looking at Hogarth's work from the era. I'm like, well, maybe that is the thing.
I think it was probably pretty heavily French inspired at the time.
That makes sense.
Fashion.
French are always scandalous. Yeah.
And then they covered back up when it was English again.
And they didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. No, it's gorgeous work. So this is an Oscar-winning period piece by one of the greatest directors of all time, but I still think where would this rank on your Kubrick scale of movies for Kubrick?
Not well.
Yeah, isn't that sad?
It's not the bottom, but it's pretty far from the radar.
Yeah.
And it's not something I necessarily want to watch again. You know, I could watch The Shining over and over and over again.
Who is this movie for? Who, like, that's
him.
Yeah.
I bet.
That's the thing about
This
it.
is because I didn't get my Napoleon movie,
really
and I'm
is.
going to
It's-
make this.
It's like his love song to the movie he wanted to make. It's his love's like, I wish I could have done what I really wanted to do. So I made this. Napoleon, I miss you.
I wonder how Ryan O'Neal feels about having done this one.
Oh, he probably loves it. He actually has a freaking movie with an Oscar. It's
true.
No, why would you not? I would love to have been part of this movie. Like, that's the irony. Like, oh, imagine if you got this movie that, you know, it's a Kubrick movie. I'd eyes wide shut. Who cares? Like, whatever.
Yeah. It's his last movie. We're going to do this.
We're gonna do this. But yeah, and this one's like gorgeous. Like, cinematography wise, if this was any other director, I'd be like, oh, that director, or that director of photography, that DP, amazing. Who was the DP?
You know
on this
what?
one?
I was also just thinking is that there weren't period movies that were popular at the time.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think people were making that many period movies, except for maybe the BBC.
Waterloo. Yeah.
You know, there were Jane Austen movies being made.
Right.
But they were like mini series and not blockbusters, or
Yes.
they were not made in America.
Right. Exactly right. Oh, and it was probably not. Maybe it wasn't a big screen draw, and because they've tried, they've done, and I don't think the movies have done that well. Like War and Peace with Audrey Hepburn.
I love that movie.
Yeah, not many people did though.
No.
Didn't do that well.
No, it was out of character to make that movie.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, so yeah, it looks like it made its money back, but it was not a commercial success. Like it barely made its money back. So
No, and critics said that it was slow and that it
They're not wrong.
lacked emotion. And compared to A Clockwork Orange, there were some pretty heavy emotions in that movie.
Okay.
And he went from one to the other.
Well, let's compare it to
This was subdued completely.
Let's compare it to Pride and Prejudice. Like, let's stop comparing it to Clockwork Orange in 2001. Let's compare this to Pride and Prejudice. How's this stack up? Because both of our parents who've watched Pride and Prejudice probably more than they've looked at us.
For sure. Without question.
Don't like Barry Lyndon.
No.
And it's not because it's not like there's a small point of nudity, but it's not like a super offensive movie.
No.
But it's not happy.
No.
There's no happy ending. There's no real redemption, which a lot of these movies.
No, it's a lot more Dickens than it is Austen.
Yes.
You know, this guy keeps messing up. He's not learning.
Not Christmas Carol.
Not
Dickens,
redeeming himself. No, all the other Dickens.
All the other Dickens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this feels like it's a very depressing. I remember I was watching when Walk the Line came out and Ray came out. I think they came out the same year. I was like, oh, these are so good, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why do I like Walk the Line better than Ray? And I went through the whole like soul search. I'm like, is it because I'm racist? Is it because I'm just I'm like, I don't even like country, but this Johnny Cash movie just feels so much more. There's something about it. And my mom's like, because there's redemption. There's no redemption in Ray.
No.
He didn't even own up to what he did by walking out until like later. And so it was just not. Johnny Cash had to go through the pits, and then he came out on the other end. And that redemption story is not in Barry Lyndon.
No.
At all.
No.
And which I like movies that don't make me feel good.
Yeah.
And I would say Barry Lyndon just doesn't make you feel good. But
and that is a Kubrick
yes.
theme. Clockwork Orange.
Yes. You don't feel
You
good.
don't end with him going, oh, he's okay now.
Thank goodness he got through all that.
The system really showed up for him, and he had the best doctors.
My gosh, it's like reading 1984. Like, yeah, 1984. This is, and now I love the man.
Yes. No.
Oh, it's so and that's and that's what I love. I like the movies. I always think about Johnny Depp in what's the drug runner movie where he sells cocaine? Blow. I thought that was one of the greatest.
I loved that movie.
Like anti-drug movie I've ever seen, because it's like glamour, ritz, and
horrible consequences.
Horrible consequences.
With no let up.
With the best ending ever, because it's like, oh, this cool Hollywood ending where he meets his daughter. Sorry, spoiler alert. But that's a lie.
Just kidding.
He never saw her again, and I thought that was the best, most like punch you in the gut movie. And maybe because they showed it, it felt more nice to get the bad news. You know what I mean?
For a minute,
isn't that funny?
you thought,
Like, oh yeah, this is nice.
And then you're back to reality. No, reality would tell you that she's never going to visit.
Exactly right. And that was beautiful. I love that. Barry Lyndon, though, like here's the thing. Okay, you ready for this? Who do you like? Do you like anyone in the movie?
No, not even the wife.
No.
I mean, you feel kind of bad for her, but you're also
But she's
kind
like,
of
yeah, you left your other husband for this guy.
yeah.
That's the hard part.
And you're just sitting there not saying anything. You're not helping yourself, and no one's helping you. And your son is a real brat.
Feels This isn't a Russian novel, is it? No, this is a English novel, right? Let's see, 1844 by William Thackeray. That's the most English frickin' name I've ever read in my life. It feels like a Russian novel though. Like this reminds me of like when I read Anna Karenina. I'm like, I hated her. I hate that movie. I mean that book so much. I don't think I stayed awake enough to watch the movie, but I was so pissed at the end because I'm like, she's the main point of this whole movie. I hate her so much. Like everything about it, I was like so frustrated with the whole scenario.
Yeah.
War and Peace, I like, because War and Peace, at least like you like the dudes and you and the gal like somewhat redeeming quality. Like she really felt like
yeah.
But Anna Karenina, just so. And Barry Lyndon felt like an Anna Karenina, not a War and Peace.
Yeah.
If we're gonna go period piece
there
on you,
no redeeming qualities. It was all ugly except the scenery.
Yeah, it was a gorgeously shot, ugly movie. Yeah.
Icky people.
Oh, icky people. Yeah. So, who would you recommend this to? Who should watch Barry Lyndon? Should anyone watch Barry Lyndon? What do we waste this time for? Like, I think. As a wedding videographer, like there's some shots in here that I'm like, oh, that's just so smart. The light was gorgeous, just really cool stuff.
Yeah, if you're a lens guy, if you're a behind the camera guy, or you can appreciate how they did something,
right? And the
angles. I mean, you can appreciate like. The uniforms and the battle.
Yeah.
And there's some historic things that you could appreciate.
Yeah, and it was historically accurate for the time, for sure. For the 70s, it did a really good job. But would I watch this again?
No.
No going
I'm
me.
sure there's a highlight reel for all of the candlelight and the marching scenes.
I'd probably watch like the 20-minute like synopsis on YouTube of Barry Lyndon. That's what I do.
I wouldn't watch again is the first 20 minutes.
No. Oh, this is the best. So here we are.
Too awkward.
Two cousins sitting on the couch together, about to start some movies. First quote unquote love scene comes up.
With the cousin.
First cousin grabbing ribbon from the other cousin's cleavage. I was dying. I was like, hey, Mariah, good thing I invited you over to watch this movie, huh?
The 3 hours.
I swear I haven't seen you.
Starts with a cousin love scene.
Oh, yes. Oh, it was like that what's the sitcom where it's Michael Cera goes to the movies with his cousin who's like he's got a crush on. Will Arnett, Jason Bateman. Come on, the show funniest.
Bluth.
Remember all the characters? We just can't remember. Arrested Development.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, that's the villain. Hilarious.
I just had a shutdown of the brain.
It felt like that scene, like where they're in the French cinema watching the cousins in passion.
Yeah.
Oh, you forgot how young Michael Cera was in that. Good night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Barry Lyndon. Well, I guess if you're going to be a movie snob, this has got to be on the list because you have
one time.
You got to watch all of Kubrick's movies, and this is a Kubrick movie.
Yep. And I will continue to try and get my hands on some older ones.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to watch Eyes Wide Shut.
I don't think I will.
Sorry.
I'm not. Sorry, Tom Cruise. Sorry.
R.I.P. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening.
They released it after his death. Maybe he died because it was so bad.
Because he didn't want it released when he was alive.
He was also pretty old, but.
Well, the only reason to watch would be see how much he was actually involved. See if they had some AD doing the whole thing.
That's a good,
right?
Good point.
Jeez Louise. All right. Well, Barry Lyndon has been, I don't know. It's been a fun take to see who Stanley Kubrick is, because really you don't understand who he is without this movie, because you realize how diverse he is. And if nothing else, that's kind of an amazing factor of this filmmaker. He is willing to do or be or go wherever like his heart takes him, so to speak.
Yeah, he followed his passion, whether or not it made sense to the rest of us or not.
Yeah, and that kind of like F all y'all like attitude for like, I'm gonna make what I want to make is just it's next level. Like I appreciate that so much, even though I, not that I don't appreciate Barry Lyndon, but it's definitely not on like it's not gonna be on my top 100 movies of all time list for sure.
No.
So, as I open my last beer, I like to say, Barry Lyndon, you were an experience. You weren't a bad experience.
What kind of beer was it? Barry Lyndon.
Oh, Barry Lyndon.
Aren't we going to finish these with
good night. Yeah,
it?
Should be a beer or a drink?
It's like a kokanee.
It would be a beer that was like, it definitely had more bitters on the end than you expected. So it's got to be an IPA. And it's got to be like up front, it's super kind of weird. So maybe like a hazy IPA that's too bitter at the end. So it's got to be probably something by Pyramid, because they always make crappy IPAs. Oh, shade. See that shade I'm throwing? Shade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I would say there's I have to do my beer thing, but I'd have to say a super bitter hazy would be my answer, because it was gorgeous, but it was just a little too bitter to swallow,
Yeah.
What would your drink be?
I'm trying to think of a good name for one, but I'm thinking of a beer that draws you in because it's got a cool name.
Yes,
and then
yes,
you
yes.
get it, and you're like,
that's fine. Oh, like there's some local. Gilgamesh has a couple. That's DJ Jazzy Hef.
Yes.
It's a DJ Jazzy Hef.
It's a Jazzy Hef.
Yeah. Freaking great name. One of the greatest beer names of all time.
Yeah.
But the DJ Jazzy Hef is like,
No.
okay, it's a Hefeweizen, but not.
It's not very jazzy.
It's not even as good as other Hefeweizens.
No.
And Hefeweizen's already not that great of a beer anyways, so it's like a lose-lose situation.
No, it only has the name.
But the can looked gorgeous. The DJ Jazzy Hef can looked
good.
Gorgeous.
There it is.
There it
We
is.
nailed it.
We nailed it. There we go. Cousins.
Disappointment.
Yeah.
But real pretty to look at.
All right, guys. That was our take on Barry Lyndon. Thanks for listening. We got more movies coming up. And, man, this is, for Stanley Kubrick, this is somehow weirder than we thought it would be, but just different. Anyways, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And more to come.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys, if this is coming out anywhere close to the holidays. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.